Hello and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Truth Podcast. My guest tonight is Tiffany Toombs, the woman behind Blue Lotus brand. She launched Blue Lotus Mind in late 2015 to bring together her passions, expertise, experiences, and knowledge under one roof. Through Blue Lotus, she has set out to fulfill her personal mission to inspire men, women, and children from around the world to reconnect with themselves and love themselves unconditionally from the inside out. It's an awesome mission. Welcome to the show, Tiffany.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun night. I'm looking forward to it. All right, let me get these off because there we go. I hate them. I just use them for reading. Okay, so my first question to you is, what kind of lit the fire for you to become an entrepreneur, and kind of go back into your story a little bit about how that came about?
Yeah. So I think I've always been an entrepreneur. I'm just wired different to most people. I've come to learn really only in like the last year that I just see the world differently to most people. But I was always entrepreneurial. I grew up in a small town, and I remember, there wasn't a lot to do in the town, but every year there was like a classic car show there, and we would get tens of thousands of people from all over coming to our town. And every year I'd beg my parents, just please let me set up a lemonade stand. Firstly, it's warm weather. Secondly, there's all these people there. And thirdly, who's not going to buy a glass of lemonade from a little blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl? Like, come on, work with me now. So that was always something that I really wanted to do. And I've always kind of had a side hustle. And then I think the older I got, the programming of it's not safe to have your own business and those kinds of things kind of got hammered into me. And so my entrepreneurial passions kind of became the side hustle, the hobby, but it wasn't ever something that I could fully make money from. What relit it for me, after college, I actually moved to Australia and I lived there for about 8 years. And when I was working there, I was managing a gym. The owner of the gym maybe worked 4 hours a month in the business, had no idea what was going on. And you could kind of tell that he just didn't care. Mm-hmm. And I've always been very connected to my mission of what it is that I want to do. And every time we had an idea about how we could grow and scale the business, and usually, with anything, when you have an idea, you kind of need to act on it fairly quickly. And if you don't, then the opportunity disappears. And so we would be presenting these opportunities to get in front of more people and for me to be able to share my passions and my message. And he would want like a total detailed analysis and a SWOT and all these things done. And he was very risk averse, and I'm not at all. So we just weren't jiving, and he kept promising profit share, but then missing out on all these opportunities and kind of sabotaging the opportunities that I brought to him because it would take him 6 months of review to make a decision because it wasn't his main passion. So I decided that I needed to just step out. Like if I was going to have the impact and leave the legacy that I truly wanted to, I needed to step out. And so initially I was in business with other people, which was a bunch of horror stories on its own that I'm sure we'll get to. But now it's me in my coaching business. And then my fiance, Sid, and I, we have a combined business as well.
That's cool. It's good when you can work together on projects. It really is. It is. Me and my wife have chosen different paths because we just don't work together well with, I don't know. It's two alphas, I swear.
Yeah, we're two alphas. And so that figuring out that like power couple dynamic has been an interesting journey for us.
It is, isn't it? I know how that goes. Because each one has the different vision for what they want to do with their own thing, We have a similar vision, which is why I think we can work together. We both just are the dominant one. And so having to either step back into a support role or, we're both very direct communicators as well. So we've learned that, we have to be clear on the role that we're communicating with each other. Am I communicating to you right now from a business point of view, in which case
if I'm direct, then you're not going to be offended by that. If I'm talking to you as the best friend or the lover, then, then we have to take a different tone. So
Exactly. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to navigate that dynamic. I know.
yeah.
So we mentioned a little bit about the struggles and the different things, but what were the big ones that held you back, either internally or externally, that along the way kind of prevented you from being who you are today? And then how did you overcome that?
So I kind of had a couple different battles going on. One that was personal, one that was professional. So I was actually abused by my stepmom growing up. It started at about the age of 3 and ended around 9 or 10 years old. And it kind of started with being burnt in curling irons and locked in closets. And then when I was 7, she drove me to the outskirts of the city that I lived in and was going to leave me for dead. So I begged for my life at 7, or so she told me. I don't think she actually would have left me. I actually don't know, but I believed my life was in danger. So I begged for my life at 7. And that created a lot of beliefs in me around it not being safe to stand out, because I was a natural performer, been dancing since the age of 3, loved to put on plays, loved to be on stage, which doesn't surprise anybody who knows me now. But it was when I was doing those things, when I was attracting the spotlight to me and she wasn't getting the attention, that the abuse happened.
Yeah.
So from like grades 3 to, or grade 4 to, really through college, and it didn't really come back until I was in Australia, that I was just deathly afraid of being in front of people. I could not get on stage. I could not, even in small groups, I couldn't speak. Even with my friendship group, like if I was hanging out with more than 2 people, I didn't speak up. Like I became this super quiet person who never spoke their mind because it wasn't safe for me. So there was that belief. And then I developed a belief system of not being worthy as well as a result. So those are things that I battled most of my life. They came to head when I was living in Australia. I'm a firm believer that if you don't deal with the things that are there, the universe will force it on you at some point. And so I had been dating someone for 3 years, and this was right before I started a business that I found out. The day I found out I was pregnant, I found out he had a girlfriend in another state. And my entire life collapsed. Then I found out that he was actually a compulsive liar and had been lying about everything from his salary to having breakfast yesterday morning, like just the most random lies ever. And so I was mortified about that. That caused a whole bunch of stress and anxiety. I couldn't eat or sleep for weeks, to the point where people were getting worried about me. Nobody actually knew that I was pregnant other than him. I was too mortified to tell anybody, because of the cheating stuff, not because of the pregnant stuff. And so then I had a miscarriage, and because I hadn't told anybody I was pregnant, I'm already going through this other mess of hey, this person that I thought I was going to spend my life with, turns out he's not the person I thought he was at all. And so I felt like an idiot springing this whole, oh, and by the way, I was pregnant and now I've lost the child. So I went through that one alone. And it honestly, it brought me to my knees. It brought me to a point where I was standing on the corner in downtown Melbourne, saw a taxi coming, and I thought, that's how I'm going to make this go away. I just take one well-timed step and this pain is gone. Nobody thinks I'm selfish. It looks like an accident, but I don't have to feel this anymore. And I mentally committed to taking the step, but my feet wouldn't move. It was definitely divine intervention, but my feet wouldn't move. And so it was in that moment that I realized what I had almost done. And I realized that I had to get help for all the stuff that I had been attempting to sweep under the carpet, because it wasn't just a little pile of dust anymore. It was this huge mountain of suppressed emotion. So my journey of healing that ultimately brought me to NLP, which is my passion today. After seeing the transformation in my life with those tools, I share them with others now. Then professionally, after all of that happened, I got into business with 2 narcissistic business partners, one of which was my best friend, and he played that best friend and the only family that I had in Australia or the only person who was like family in Australia. He played that card well. So at that time, I also had a belief that I wasn't smart enough to run a business by myself. And so, and part of that also came from him, in that he would constantly be like, what do you mean you don't know what this is? Or, so I learned a lot of lessons from that. The most important being, always make sure you have access to the bank accounts. And the second being, don't take anybody's word for what is in a contract, what is outlined in a contract. Make sure that you read it yourself.
Yeah, that's true. You got to protect yourself these days. You really do. But as for competency, it's like, I think we all go through that, like imposter syndrome type thing, that we kind of feel like we're not worthy, we're not good enough, who's going to listen to me type stuff. But through therapy for and your end and NLP, you were able to overcome that. Can you tell us a little more? Because I know NLP is a big term, but maybe our listeners don't know exactly what that is. Could you explain that for them?
Yeah, so most people know NLP not necessarily by its name. It's what Tony Robbins is trained in, is how most people know it. NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming. And what that is we look at how the brain is wired. So how we store emotions, beliefs, and memories, how that combines with the words that we use. So when I'm communicating with you, when I'm communicating with anybody and with myself, how those words combine with my beliefs, my memories, and my emotions to create my reality, essentially the behaviors I take, the opportunities I see or don't see. So what we really look at is we recognize that everyone has a lot more choices than what they think they have. But because of the belief systems that we have, or the words that we use to describe things, we limit our choices, and we start deleting things from even being able to see them by how we describe it. So, people who say it's really hard to make money, they'll delete any opportunities to make money that don't match their definition of hard to make. And so there could be opportunities sitting right in front of people to make money, and they don't even see it because, and I've had this with clients where I'm like, well, why don't you don't do this? And they're like, I didn't even think of that. And I'm like, it's like super obvious. And once you point it out, or once you do some work on the belief system, they're like, I can't believe I missed that. And that's the power of NLP. You were talking before we got on camera about how you interviewed Roshana before. And I just did a session with her where we just did like a quick flip of something. And she was like, holy crap. Like, I didn't even know I had all these options there. And then there they are. And I was like, I love watching it.
I love it too. Yeah. She was on, I interviewed her last night, and she's an amazing person. I don't want to get too far off topic, but yeah, she's just amazing. She lights up at what she does. And if you've had anything to do with that, I appreciate it actually, because I just made a new friend, and that was nice.
Yes. She's awesome. And I mean, I run NLP trainings as well. So I just had a 3-day weekend a couple weeks ago, and I reached out the week after just to touch base with everyone. And we do this technique we do it first just to kind of show how powerful the mind can be. And we just change, how when you communicate, you get a picture in your head, right? All our words become a picture. So we just change one quality of that picture, and it changes something in your brain. So what we do is we take a food that somebody likes, but maybe it's not healthy for them, like ice cream or candy or whatever that they're eating too much of. And we move it from the like file of the brain to the dislike file in the brain. And so one of the people that attended doesn't eat a whole lot, or hadn't previously eaten a whole lot of like whole foods or fresh foods, and ate a lot of processed foods. And so they did graham crackers, and they reframed what that picture was like. And I called them the week after, and they were like, I can't eat mac and cheese. I can't eat any of my old comfort foods. And all of a sudden I'm eating fruits and vegetables, and I want them. And I was like, that's so awesome. Like, because even though we only worked on graham crackers, his brain just applied it to everything that was processed that he loved eating. And now he's like, I can't even eat it anymore. So tell me a situation that applies to business, to where
an entrepreneur or a person that wants to become an entrepreneur is kind of stuck right now? How does that apply to that, or just give an example of that?
Yeah. So it doesn't, I just want to preframe this by saying it doesn't matter how many aspects of, like, people think that you have to make large scale changes, but like the room that you're sitting in, I can see you've got white walls. If you were to even paint like half or a quarter of one of those white walls hot pink, it would change the room, right?
Yeah, true.
That room would look and feel different.
Definitely.
And so we can sometimes just change, and it depends on the person, we can just change one element of the picture in their mind to get a different outcome. So I had a client come to me last year who is an entrepreneur and came to me with a fear of success. And so got them to close their eyes. What do you see when you think of success? And they said that it was a still shot. It wasn't a movie. It was a still shot, because we can have both. It was a still shot, and it was a guy swinging an axe at my client's head. And I was like, well, no wonder you're afraid of success, because you literally see something that could harm you. And it's important to know that our unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between fiction and reality. So if he's got this picture in his head, his unconscious mind is perceiving that as 100% real, even though it's just a picture in his mind. And so what we did was I said, okay, what I want you to do is you're going to play that movie. You're going to make that picture a movie. You're going to play it through. And what you're going to see is that the guy isn't swinging at you, but there's like some sort of like limiting belief gremlin or bad guy behind you. And that's who he's swinging at. And so he shut his eyes, he played it through, and he was like, oh my gosh. He's like, this person, this guy that's swinging the axe, there was a little gremlin on my shoulder that was whispering to me how I wasn't good enough. And he killed the gremlin. And then when he put down the axe, he said, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. There just wasn't enough time to warn you about what was happening. And literally that was enough for him to start making the cold calls that he knew he needed to do, to start doing email outreach. He got a couple speaking gigs after that. Like, he was like, I can't believe that the change was that easy.
And that's the thing, because our subconscious mind is here to protect us. And so it's not a bad thing. A lot of the limiting beliefs and things that we have are planted there so that we don't get hurt.
Yeah. So our unconscious mind is here to protect us. It's also here to serve us. It actually wants us to have every single thing that we want. The problem is that we either focus on what we don't want. So people will be like, I want to be debt free. Well, the focus is still on debt. And whatever the focus is in the unconscious mind is what it seeks more of. So instead of saying, I want to be debt free, you need to give it a specific picture of what you do want instead. And if you don't give it a specific picture, let's say you say something like, oh, I want financial freedom. What does that even look like, right? So it's too abstract for the unconscious mind. So if it can't get a clear picture of what you're saying, it'll go back to whatever it had before. So because it can't get a clear picture of financial freedom, it'll go back to debt. If you say more money, and then you walk outside and you see a penny on the ground, well, you haven't specified. So technically now you do have more money than what you had before you found that penny. So the unconscious mind just goes, tick, we've achieved that goal. So it's really, really crazy how quickly we can make a change by programming, and how big the change in our life can be by changing how we program the unconscious mind, by focusing on what we do want as opposed to what we don't. Like if you focus on failure, you'll make decisions, or you'll forget something, or you'll delay too long, that opportunity will become a failure. If you focus on haters, which is a common thing for entrepreneurs, right? That's another battle I've had to face in my journey.
Me too.
The more I focused on what the haters were saying, the more haters I saw. Now I don't even pay attention to them. And people are like, oh, this person said something about you. And I was like, oh, I'm sure it was good. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I don't even need to hear it. Like, if it's not, I don't need to hear it, because I'm just focused on what's going well.
That's so key, though. I don't think the framing of what we say, like you pointed out with the penny, I want to make more money. Okay, mission accomplished. I get that. And I haven't heard that so much. I have heard a lot about, if we say we don't want something, like I want to, I want to not be in debt, or I want to, not be heavy or something like this. And when the focus is on the actual thing that we don't want, we don't realize that. We don't realize what our focus is actually on. But it's interesting that how we frame stuff is really important too.
Yeah,
So,
your words absolutely do matter. Like if you tell yourself something's going to be hard, again, you're only going to see the options that are hard. You'll delete or distort any options that are easy or easier than what you expect it to be.
so that affects our vision.
Absolutely. So there's 2 million pieces of information that gets stored in our unconscious mind every second. And consciously, we're only aware of 134. So there's a lot of information that gets lost there.
Wow, you're brilliant. Whoever told you weren't smart, that's crazy. It's crazy talk. You're bringing things out that I don't know, and I've studied quite a bit of stuff, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
This truly is.
Yeah. And the filtering system to go from 2 million to 134 is based on our belief systems and how we define things. So, if you Google NLP, and this happens a lot, it'll come up as it's manipulation. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you look at the word manipulate, it just means to mold. So right now I'm molding the air, I'm manipulating the air, right? Just like a sculpturist or whatever they're called molds a piece of and manipulates a piece of clay. Mm-hmm. So anytime we talk, every time you talk on your podcast, you're manipulating your listeners to be a better version of themselves. I don't care what you call it. You can call it manipulation. You can call it magic. The truth is, yes, I'm going to manipulate you to becoming the best possible version of you. I'm not doing it in a negative way. Just like any industry, there's people who have gotten a hold of NLP tactics. If you look at Wolf of Wall Street, circa the era of the movie, right, where there was people being ripped off, those were NLP topics, concepts being used for evil. Just like there's bad lawyers or bad doctors or bad anything out there, bad politicians. It's the same thing for the coaching industry. Some people will use NLP for negative. Most people use it for positive, though. Most coaches want to be able to help you manipulate yourself. I mean, if you believe that you're not good enough, you've manipulated yourself to believe that. You have persuaded yourself. Sense. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's almost like the gun thing, where it's like guns kill people. Guns don't kill people. The people that own them do, or the people that have one does, So it's what you do with that tool, like money. Yeah. You can spend it to be powerful and rich and manipulate people and that type of thing, or you can give to charity, Yeah. So it's not the tool, it's the individual who wields the tool.
Yeah. You don't blame a wrench for fixing something. So it's the same with
hitting
NLP.
Someone over the head.
Exactly.
See, it could be used for dual purpose, and that's what you're talking about with NLP.
Yeah.
How quickly can someone change their reality with NLP?
So the shortest time frame that I have seen, so to go through a complete process, like from A to Z, to make sure we've gotten rid of all the old emotional baggage, it takes me about 8 sessions with somebody.
Wow.
I can do a 10 to 15 minute process on somebody that gets them a very quick change. So like with the graham crackers and the comfort foods, that was a very quick change that's going to impact that person's health. So it is positive in a way. I don't like to just leave it there. Like I liken the unconscious mind to a garden. And so every time we do a process, we're pulling out some weeds by the root. And we don't want to just weed one patch of the garden. I mean, if that's all the person wants to do, then something's better than nothing. At the same time, I'd prefer to get rid of it all. And then we can talk about, where you want to go from there.
Makes a lot of sense. So the people that you serve and clients that you've had, what do you see as like the number one thing that keeps popping up with those people? What's the number one hurdle they have to go through, in your opinion?
So I'd say it's always limiting beliefs that pop up. I would say the most common limiting beliefs. So the biggest ones are the not good enough and the will be rejected. People won't like me, people will hate on me. And then the not good enough, not worthy. Another interesting one that a lot of entrepreneurs have is a need to be in struggle. Like there's some kind of nobility or righteousness being in struggle that unless their back is against the wall, when their back's against the wall, they're more creative, they're more innovative, they're more productive, motivated, whatever. And then as they start climbing that mountain and the pressure's off, they don't have to worry about how they're going to pay rent next month, or they're not eating ramen noodles anymore. They kind of take their foot off the gas pedal a little bit. And some people will like totally sabotage and like throw themselves down the proverbial mountain to have to start again. And so that comes from it. Generally underlying that is a belief either around worthiness or rejection. But that's kind of how we see it showing up, is this self-sabotage and believing, well, I'm better when I'm in struggle. I'm better when,
the pressure's on type thing.
Yeah. And I think, entrepreneurs in general are wired different. We're more likely to be like the adrenaline junkies, the risk takers. So it's almost like that gives you that hit of adrenaline that you need to pull yourself out again.
It's amazing what our minds and our past does to us. You know what I mean? It's amazing how we could either have everything we want, which is available to us, or we can live in struggle, which no one really wants to do, but deep down, we're either afraid or someone has told us that this is dangerous or something's happened to us that just turns that off for us. And we live in poverty, we live in struggle, and we live in strife all the time. And you're telling me you can get out of that fairly easily.
Yeah, easily and pretty quickly as well. I think what happens is we take on other people's, especially where money is involved. I see this like negative money beliefs, that we take on what other people have created as an excuse for why they couldn't do it. Well, money's hard, or you need this type of education, or, money is evil, so therefore I'm not going to make it. We take on other people's excuses as our own truth, or we take on other people's projections as our own truth. So somebody else tells us that we're an idiot or we're a scam artist because we made a mistake, and we take that on to be our truth without realizing that their hands aren't clean either. I saw a great post on social media today about how there's like this group of people, especially on social media, who love to find the mistakes from somebody's past, whether it's infidelity or a failed business or bankruptcy or, and I mean, we see it kind of at all levels, where a politician starts running for office and we find a way to discredit them by, finding out that they got a D on a test in college, or, whatever it is. And we attempt to discredit them. And those people forget that like they've made mistakes too. And as long as you judge somebody by their past, what you're telling your unconscious mind is that people can't change. And the only person that affects is you.
Wow.
If you put out that projection of, oh, well, that person screwed over people 5 years ago, then you're telling your unconscious mind that people can't change. And so you limit your growth. The only person you're stunting in that situation is you.
That's absolutely true. I mean, it's tough because you do have those people out there, that do want to hate on you, and they do want to bring up things and why are you in this position and all this other stuff. And you did this, and this, and here, see, I got you. To me, I don't understand what the point is. I mean, I've never understood people that just want to hurt other people.
And I mean, those people are hurting within themselves. And I wish that people realize that if they took the energy that they spent researching somebody else's transgressions, researching somebody else's past, and put that focus into creating what they want, or into becoming a better version of themselves, or unlocking their potential, that they would get there so much faster. Like that narcissistic ex-business partner I mentioned before, I was actually forced to resign from the business because I didn't read the contract, and I trusted the best friend to tell me what was in there. And it turns out I was in serious breach of the contract, and the government put pressure on the business that either I was out and the business got the money that the government owed them, or they never got paid and I could stay. And so it was goodbye to me, this business I'd spent 4 years putting my heart and soul into. But I also lost my living and working visa for Australia, so I had to leave.
Wow.
And, 2 years later, this person who hasn't owned up responsibility, and because I pretty much ran that business as well, the business went under 2 months after I left, and that business partner was left holding a couple $100,000 worth of debt that I'm not legally liable for because the company was solvent when I left. And has attempted to slander me every which way in the process. And I said, I've even said, I don't want bad karma. So, send me some legal documents around bank statements and whatnot, and we'll figure out something. But you didn't even want to come to the party on that. So, I received an email from that person a couple days ago from like a fake email, like truth hurts, or, you're a fraud or whatever, calling me all sorts of names. And I was just like, dude, it's been 2 years. Like if I had have spent my 2 years focused on how you caused me to lose everything and have to move back from Australia, my life would be that miserable too. But if you would just have taken that energy that you've spent slandering me and attempting to minimize my success or halt my success, and healed yourself and did the work on yourself and started your own business again, you could be just as successful as I am.
Exactly. I mean, it's all how we see things. You know what I mean? It's all how we interpret stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, for the entrepreneurs listening, there's always going to be people who are triggered. As soon as you start shining your light, kind of two things happen. You shine the path for the people who want to follow your way. You're going to inspire people. They're going to be the quiet ones, right? And you may never have this experience. I hope you do. There will be people who will reach out and say, you know what? I've never liked, commented, or shared a single one of your Facebook posts, but I go there every day and I look at what you're writing and what you're doing because you inspire me. But just know that the people that you inspire are the quiet bunch. Mm-hmm. And it's the people who the light that you're shining is showing them all the areas that they're playing small. Those are the people who are going to be triggered. You're putting them into fight or flight, and you're not doing it purposely. You're not doing it maliciously. It's just their refusal to move. They're too attached to their comfort zone. So they'll throw whatever rock and stone they can at you because they're in fight or flight mode. And stop taking that on to be your truth. Like if I could share one message, that would be it. What other people say about you is none of your business, and it is absolutely not your truth.
That's good. I got hit with some of that recently. It's not maybe a couple, like a month ago, something like that. And it hit me so hard the first time, because it was the first time that had happened to, with this thing. I'm not saying and haven't been through it, but it was kind of a shock in some ways. And then I took it kind of hard at the first day. And then after that, I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah. And I mean, for people who are compassionate and empathetic, like you and I, it is a challenge because it's not a behavior that we would ever engage in. One of my mentors always says to me, honest people and good people expect everyone else to be honest and good. And
exactly.
the scam artists and the negative people, they expect everyone to be a scam and a liar and negative. So they're just showing you what their reality is. They're showing you what filter they use to see the world, and you don't have to make that filter yours.
That's amazing. And I love that point of view. I wanted to ask, I want to dig a little deeper into your mission. Your mission is to want to have people love themselves. Mm-hmm. And how do we get to that place from people who are just in it right now, struggling, trying to figure out their next move, trying to eat? I mean, there's people out there that, that's an issue at this point.
So Self-love is an interesting topic because I think the like pop culture world has taken it and distorted it to be something that really is not what self-love is. It's not all red wine and bubble baths. Are there some red wine and bubble baths? Sure. But that's not solely what it is. It's also this, it's a place of coming to totally and wholly accept who you are. And so what I tell my clients is that we're going to take the skeletons out of the closet. We're going to have a little tea party. We're going to get to know them. Because when you start to look at those, those things from your past that you regret or that you have guilt or shame about or that you haven't fully healed, and you make friends with them, you forgive yourself. We're really quick to forgive other people. We have to forgive ourselves, right? And then ask, what was the lesson that I needed? Because the universe, God, whoever it is that you believe in, didn't put you here because you're a mistake, didn't put you here because you're an idiot, didn't put you here to humiliate and embarrass you. It gave you those obstacles to learn something. So if you think of life like a video game, you had that obstacle on that level of the game so that you could unlock a certain resource. Now you're going to go to the next level. There's going to be another set of obstacles there that you have to overcome, missions if you want to stick with the video game lingo, right? You've got to complete these missions in order to get this toolbox. Then you go to the next level. And so when you really start to take time to reflect, and you don't need any money to be able to do this, you just need like a pen and a piece of paper. That's it. And just sit down and say, okay, here's all the challenges that I've faced in my life. For me, child abuse, miscarriage, infidelity, $1.8 million business loss in our first business, narcissistic business partners, all of these things. Okay, what did I learn from them? Because we can't go back and change what happened to us, but we can change how we see that. So people talk to me now and they're like, oh, that guy who cheated on you, he was a jerk. And I mean, they use stronger language than that, but I'll just say jerk. And I just say, you know what? I'm grateful for the experience. And I've had friends say to me, I wish that you hadn't have had to date that person for 3 years. You know what? If I hadn't dated them for 3 years, I wouldn't have been as emotionally invested. Well, I wish then the miscarriage and the pregnancy hadn't have happened. Well, yeah, it was a lot all at once. At the same time, it all happened perfectly as it was meant to, because if it had just been the cheating, then I wouldn't have had the change. I wouldn't have been brought to my knees in the way that I needed to be in order to make change. It was in that moment, standing on that corner in Melbourne, that I realized that I was playing small. Mm-hmm. And I was settling in every area of my life. So it was in that moment that I knew that I had to make a change. And when you,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say all of it combined, like all of it was a necessary evil at the time to help me get that lesson. And so the easiest way to start loving yourself again is to forgive yourself by taking the lessons away. That's how you get closure.
And the thing is, it's like when we have hard times and stuff like that, it makes us who we are. You know, it makes us wiser. It makes us, not as gullible maybe, but it also creates in us the need to get healthy, to be better as a person. And if those things don't happen, we don't change the things we need to change to explode our business. Because I personally believe that everything internal and is a mirror reflection of where your business is at, or where it will be at.
Absolutely. That's actually an NLP concept. I don't know if you knew that, but
did not.
our external reality is just a reflection of what's going on inside. And so, your relationships with everybody else reflect your relationship with yourself. If you don't have a good relationship with yourself, you're not going to have a strong, positive relationship with somebody else.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Absolutely
everything starts
true.
within us.
Okay. So I want you to talk a little bit about what you have to offer and those type of things for the listeners who are stuck, who are struggling, who are in this battle, and they need a little assistance to get up.
Sure. So I would say the easiest place to get started is I have a Facebook group. It's called Success Secrets for Purpose-Driven Entrepreneurs. My fiance's in there as well. He does a lot of training on business, sales, lead generation. And then I'm in there doing trainings daily on mindset, on communication, on all of that. So if people just go to successsecretsgroup.com, they'll be redirected to the Facebook group. That's probably the easiest place to get started. And then if they want more than that, they can reach out to me either on my website, bluelotusmind.com, or just email me, tiffany@bluelotusmind.com, and we can talk about doing a trial session to see if what I offer is right for them.
That sounds great. That sounds really, really good. So I wanted to end the show with you having 100% the floor and just talk to the entrepreneurs that are stuck right now and just share from your heart.
All right. I don't want to repeat anything I've said already, but I would say that you were put here with a message. I've kind of, that's my dog snoring in the background. If you can hear him. Sorry.
That's okay. We have all kinds of special guests on this show.
There you go. He's just giving his 2 cents. So you were put here with a message. Like I said before, you're not here by accident. The chances of you being born were 1 in 400 trillion. So there's a reason that you're here. You have a message, a gift, a talent, whatever to share with the world. And that gift, when you step into it, will make someone's life better. Doesn't matter if it makes their life better by baking the best apple pie, by doing the best oil change, whatever your passions are the crumbs that you need to follow to the purpose that you're here for. And as long as you give in to worrying about what other people will think, worrying about failure, self-doubt, negative self-talk, any of that stuff, then you're robbing the person who's waiting for your message of changing their life. And so this is a common reframe that I use for people when they do get stuck is, and I used it for myself when I launched my coaching business, was if I don't share my message, there's somebody out there who will not be able to change their life in the way that I can help them to. Yeah, they could have, you might be thinking, well, they could go get their oil change somewhere else, or they could go get, apple pie somewhere else. There's a reason that they're meant to contact you. Your story, your mix of ingredients, the way that you screw the oil cap back on after, whatever. They're meant to run in with you. They're meant to learn something from you, come into your life, even if it's just for a second. And as long as you are hiding in the shadows and not fully stepping into your message, then that person is not going to get that transformation that they need to get from you.
That's beautiful. It is, because you know what? We do take ourselves for granted, I think. It's kind of a thing where we've, if I wasn't there, they'd just find somebody else. No, you're part of the plan too.
Absolutely.
You're part of the plan as well. So if you're stuck, if you're in that area that I know, it's just, I don't know how to get out of this. I mean, I'm not making any money, or I'm not making enough. I'm not doing the things that I really need to do. I find myself procrastinating. I find myself, trying to run away from the things I really should do and focused on the minutia and all the garbage that I'm actually doing. I would recommend you reach out to Tiffany and have a session, see how it goes, and see if we can get some of these limiting beliefs off you so that you can start to go into your purpose, your calling, because the world needs you. So I appreciate you being on today.
Thanks so much.
And I'm very happy that this conversation happened, because I really believe that people need this. I do.
Thank you.
So everybody, if you could click the like button on the video and the subscribe button and the comments below, man, you're going to have a workout after all this. Okay. I'm just letting you know, but I appreciate it. And thank you. And you have a wonderful day.